Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. And today, I think this is the longest subject header for a presentation I've ever seen in my life. But let's just focus on the first line. Is MBA admissions consulting worth it? And today we're going to talk about, what business schools look for, why perfect candidates get rejected, and is it worth paying thousands of dollars for an MBA admission consulting service? So I'll try and talk very quickly, but as this is on YouTube, feel free to pause some of the slides. That makes total sense. Let's get going. So my name is Shimri Winters. I'm a London Business School MBA grad. I work at ARINGO MBA Admission Consulting. We're a boutique MBA admission consulting firm, helping candidates just like you get into top MBA programs. I hope I'm going to prove to you soon that also regular MBA candidates can get into top programs. We help with everything, okay? School selection, project planning, strategy, what to write, who to apply to, and then with the actual applications, all the way to scholarships and much more. Check us out on aringo.com. Thumbs up if you can. Let's get going. Okay, so this is my agenda. It's actually quite longer than I thought because I did try and give you examples on everything. But again, I'm going to talk quickly. Feel free to pause on whatever interests you. So let's talk a bit about the challenges of MBA admissions to a top school. Okay, and it's not that easy getting into Harvard or Stanford or any M7 or INSEAD, London Business School or other top MBA programs. And then I'll actually try to explain and give you some examples why top MBA candidates still get rejected sometimes. Um, I did a whole presentation about why not to use AI. So I'm, just going to take a few of those bullets here and kind of try and persuade you not to use AI as your MBA admission consultant. Please don't, please. And then I'll explain what MBA admission consultants actually do and who benefits from working with MBA admission consulting firms. And maybe I'll try and give you some return on investments for MBA admission consulting services. That's about it. I have some recent admission insights, which I hope will prove the whole thing together. Let's get started. Okay, so why is it so difficult in getting into top MBA programs? So the first thing is there's just thousands of applicants, and in two schools, there's even over 10,000 applicants, Stanford and Harvard, trying to get into these top MBA programs. Stanford have a 6% admissions rate. Harvard have an 8% admissions rate, mainly because the class is bigger. So these and other schools, okay? If we look at Wharton, Columbia, Chicago, MIT, NYU, Yale, Kellogg, etc., London Business School, INSEAD, etc. These schools have a very small acceptance percentage in acceptance rate. Many candidates have similar academic or professional profiles and experiences, and it's very hard. Academic excellence, this is when we come to kind of why people get rejected, is this academic excellence or maybe strong work experience isn't sufficient. Okay, so there's many factors that the admission committees look at. For example, your career vision. Why do you want an MBA? Where do you see yourself in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? Why do you want to apply to this specific school? Have you shown any leadership or maybe just leadership potential? Have you shown impact in your workplace, in your life, in your community, in your academic life? Do you have any international work experience? Maybe any perspective of working with diverse teams? And many more. I put here sometimes intangible factors. Okay, when I used to interview for London Business School, I used to look for three. I used to look for academics, professional, but I used to look for like a third factor, which was like all the rest. Would I like to study? Would I like to sit by you in class? And that sometimes isn't intangible because sometimes someone is very strong academically, very strong professionally, but doesn't kind of possess that third intangible factor or is just not a very interesting person. Um, so there's many factors. Remember that schools also try and build heterogeneous class. Okay, so they will not take 100 McKinsey consultants, 200 programmers, and 200 finance people. They will take very few from each of those buckets, and your job is to try and kind of be different. So again, strong candidates, in one word, I think is the differentiation. Okay, they sometimes lack differentiation, and it's not because they don't have ability. It's just that they probably did a poor job in the application itself. Um, so again, kind of to show it in a different way, if you are an overrepresented candidate, and most candidates are overrepresented, okay, because there's usually more than one, so that means there's at least two people that have a very similar background than you. They probably studied in your university or in a similar university. They come from the same country and they had the same career path. So even if you're a very, very good Deloitte accountant, you're competing against a very good PwC accountant. You might have 3 years of experience, but she has 4. You might have a top GMAT, 715, she has a 725. You might manage 3 people, she managed 4. Okay, so a lot of times kind of this screening process, yes, you kind of tick the boxes, but still it's not enough. But you're just going to be compared with, hundreds or thousands of similar profiles, and you have to stand out. Another mistake that we kind of see is a lot of people have the credentials, like we said, they have the right credentials, and then they take the resume, the online application, sometimes even their recommenders write it in this way, and kind of write the CV again and again and again. So, what's your biggest achievement? Okay, when I graduated from university, I found a job, then I worked there for 2 years, and I moved another job. All this is in your CV. Tell me something else. Tell me about you, about your style as a person. Tell me about failures that you had. Tell me about decisions that you make. Tell me about motivations. Tell me why you want this specific school. Tell me about career aspirations, etc. So this presentation isn't about what to write in applications. We have lots of presentations about that, but it's just kind of to show that there are many factors which are beyond, just credentials. So the key insight is people usually don't struggle. I haven't seen many applicants, or they definitely don't work with me because we wouldn't take an applicant like that doesn't have a chance. Okay, so I haven't seen applicants with a 200 GMAT, 0 years of work experience, no extra curriculum, 2.0 GPA, and trying to apply to Harvard. Okay, so that person won't get in. But the problem is actually usually with the applicants who have a lot of those credentials. Maybe they're missing some, but they have a lot of them and didn't position themselves in the right way. And this doesn't mean just strong writing, goes nicely with our AI slide that has very strong writing, but very little meaning sometimes. But a lot of times it can be just small things like the framing, inconsistency, authenticity is a huge issue. And the main thing is meaningfulness. Okay. We have to kind of show impact across everything that you've done. And that's sometimes more important than these, credentials. Um, so again, we have 21 years of experience here at ARINGO, and these patterns just don't change. Okay, so people come to us and they didn't work with us, and they come to us and say, can we do a ding analysis? Can we check my material and understand why I didn't get an interview? And the answer is often because they start writing their essays before they even strategize. I actually had someone this morning call me and say, I would love to work with you guys. I said, great, can you, I want to interview you before we start writing the strategy and we start thinking about the strategy and before we start writing the essays, I want to talk to you. I want to understand what your parents did, want to understand what your hobbies are, and then, what your achievements were, and then we can kind of choose what to write. And the guy said, oh, no need. I've already written all my essays. Here they are. And I'm like, but did you actually strategize before? Did you think what the theme is, what you want to convey to the schools before you wrote these essays? Like we said before, a lot of times people kind of repeat their CV in other places, which is a shame. It's probably the biggest mistake because we could have said other things. I had an amazing investment banker woman with 3 years of experience in a tier one global known brand, which I won't mention. Um, And really, she has a great profile. And it's all, so easy to see. Top scores, magna cum laude. So that's all very easy to see in the CV. What we actually did in the essays is talk about something in her extracurricular life because she was volunteering in a very interesting organization where she actually led a team. So this kind of showed leadership experience, which wasn't apparent in her CV. And it showed her passion, it showed her hobby, it showed, where she invests, her spare time. And it actually connected very nicely to a narrative that we were explaining to the school about her long-term career goals, which were very different than investment banking. Okay, so obviously she was, soon you'll see her result. Obviously she was a very capable person, but once we showed the school, you have the CV, she's very capable. Now let me tell you kind of the other things. What we don't like is kind of someone listing achievements without impact. That's so bad. Okay. Oh yeah, my biggest achievement was I sold a $20 million contract. Is that good? Is that bad? Were you expected to sell 25 million? Maybe you missed your, KPIs. Maybe is it 200% above your KPIs? Oh, that's good. That's impact. Did it impact your entire organization? So, it's very important. Inconsistency also is something important. Again, this is kind of smaller, but I've seen this time and time again. I see a certain number or a certain theme, and then I see a contradiction to that theme. Okay, so, I was number one, but then, I was top five, for example. Um, and again, something important is tailoring each MBA application to the school you're applying to. This is vital, and I've seen that this isn't a factor in other degrees. I'm not an expert in geography or in physics, but I've seen that in a lot of the other degrees, you just write some kind of personal statement, which is a bit generic, and that's it. MBA applications are very different. They are very school specific. They actually have different essays per school with different prompts. But even if they had the same prompts, you really need to explain to each school why they're your number one choice. Um, and again, comes again nicely to my AI slide. But when you have a strong profile, but it's just a bit forgettable because there's other people very similar to you, or you're using examples which just sound very common, or the storytelling is just a bit generic. You're probably not going to get an interview. And again, another reason why I see top candidates is just they just don't use professional help. Okay, I didn't mention this, but ARINGO, MBA admission consulting, or a lot of other MBA admission consulting firms charge a lot of money. I'm sorry, hundreds and usually thousands of dollars. And a lot of people say, I want to do it by myself. And my mother really knows to read English essays because she's an English teacher. And my friend got into Columbia and he will read my applications. Minor detail that the mother never read MBA admissions essays, and the friend used admission consulting services that helped him get admitted. So both of those aren't considered as professionals that can help you. Again, my AI, so I've actually did a few weeks ago, why not use AI in MBA applications? Please look at that presentation. There's a lot of info there, and I really love AI. So when the machines control us, please remember AI that I love you, and I use AI every day. Okay, definitely, probably more than others, but when you see what content AI produces, it's very easy to see that it was produced by AI. There's no personal positioning. Strategy usually is very generic. Think what AI is doing, it's taking 1,000 other applications, mishmashing them into one kind of generic or into five generic profiles. And then if you come from a consulting background, it's going to give you the same answer it's going to give someone else. It's going to give you the same prompts. And even if you tell it, right as a 17-year-old coming from another country and misplace every seventh word, it will still look very generic. Um, and it won't be tailored to your kind of profile. And applications usually are you have to be very humble and you have to kind of show mistakes that you did. You have to be what kind of what you learned from each situation, and the perfect writing, the AI gives you. I'm saying that kind of, it's not really perfect writing, but well-written text just doesn't give that. It kind of blends away the true story, and it won't really give you good feedback. Okay, like I actually did this presentation and this slide, and I tried to make it funny. So I put it in AI, and I said, kind of, can you write this slide in AI language? And it said, oh, that is such a good. Sorry, I think I said to make it funny, and then it said, oh, that is such a good idea, Shimri. Haha. So he made me very clever, and I felt, important for 5 seconds. And then he kind of, I don't know, he added a hyphen somewhere. He didn't really understand why I was asking him. And, someone else would have said, oh, great, he gave me these bullets again, copy paste, and, next, AI has approved this. So no, there's a lot of, there's a lot of reliability here, which I'm not sure I would put my money on the AI kind of view. Um, and again, AI kind of looks at internet uh, data, and a lot of, there's a lot of, including our site, I think there's thousands of pages that explain kind of how to write MBA applications, but it won't give you what you should emphasize, what you should reduce, what you should leave, which recommenders you should bring. What story are they telling? Okay, now that means, if my boss knew me as a very good manager, maybe I should now tell stories about someone who's very analytical. Okay, AI just won't be able to give you that kind of depth in the strategy, and definitely not in the writing. And again, just very hard to differentiate your storytelling from someone else. Um, okay, like I said, feedback, super, super important. Again, I love AI, but it doesn't matter what you're going to feed into it. It's going to kind of give you AI language in the end. Doesn't matter what prompt you're going to try and give it. And again, watch my why not to use AI video. This isn't just about the wording. Even if you change every fourth word, it's just not going to be deep enough. Okay, so it's not about the AI detector. It's about the actual result. Okay, I'm just going to leave these three examples here. Again, I just copy pasted them from my AI video. I'm not going to go into them too much, but just pick anyone. The middle one, it was kind of this failure story, and this guy had to explain something to a frustrated client. I think a delivery wasn't on time, and the AI kind of said, "This experience taught me resilience and adaptability. Adaptability. Okay, very hard word. But what it didn't do, it kind of didn't, just miss the whole opportunity of explaining what actually happened. Okay, and that's what you'll see here in all the examples and in other examples. It just misses the opportunity to explain what you did, what you learned, and the impact that was there. Maybe, maybe you learned something, maybe you failed, maybe you succeeded. Okay, enough about AI. So what do MBA admission consultants actually do? We don't just look at your essays, we definitely do that, and edit a bit. No, we do way more than that. First of all, we strategize before we actually write something. How can we differentiate you? Okay, and if I see another essay this year about a programmer who wants to become a product manager at Google, or about someone else who wants to pivot and work at McKinsey in consulting. Wow, that is so special. I've never heard that before. I wonder where you got the idea from. Don't use AI. So what we do is we strategize before we actually write something. And then we try and come up with a personal narrative. And then we try and use that across all your materials. Again, this narrative should come out from your CV, it should come out from your essays. Your recommenders should probably support this narrative. The online application is very important. A lot of schools have additional questions, which are not essays. In this online application, it can be 50 characters, it can be 50 words. Some schools have video essays, video interviews. All these places are golden opportunities for this narrative. Obviously, your experience to date should come out with what impact you've done and growth stories, etc. And then we have to take all this and tailor it specifically to the school that you want to apply to, and then refine your application again and again and again, and ensure consistency, etc. How does ARINGO do this, for example? I will show you later. But you have a lot of stages, and we have actually 3 different people reading each of these essays, each of these CVs, each of these entire applications to make sure there aren't any blind spots, to make sure there's consistency, and to just guide you through the entire process. I stuck it here. This is just from our homepage. I just thought I was going to do on AI like a nice graph of of a process, but then I thought we actually have this on our homepage. So this just shows what kind of ARINGO does, I suppose what other admission consultants don't do, or maybe they do, which is kind of first thinking about the strategy, then developing the narrative, then kind of working on that, showing it to a second reviewer and a third reviewer. Usually, by the way, at ARINGO, we have 8 ex-director of admissions on our team, and we have 20 MBA alumni on our team, which will review your application with the specific school eyes. So if you're applying to Columbia, it should be someone who worked or studied at Columbia. If you're applying to MIT, it should be someone who worked at MIT, like we have on our team. And then we do interview preparation, etc. So there's a lot of stages to verify and verify again your narrative is good. Okay, I told you this is a bit of a long presentation. I'm getting there. We're nearly at the end. Who kind of benefits the most from MBA admission consulting? So obviously, it's much easier to get into a non-top school. So if you have low expectations, or if you're just trying to target your local community college, it's probably not very hard to get into that program. Don't pay thousands of dollars to get into a not top school. But if you are kind of targeting a high competitive program, if you have kind of a strong profile, so you can target them, but again, this narrative and positioning is important. If you're looking for a transition, that's a very hard story. I actually have a great job today as a lawyer, but my dream is to be, a venture capitalist. That's a tough story that we need to work on. If you come from some kind of overrepresented background, maybe, you come from a country that has a lot of applicants, or you come from an industry that has a lot of applicants. And again, a lot of people think that when you come from kind of a top tier brand that's good, they're right, but on the other hand, they have a lot of competition. And if you come from a small startup that does something very, very specific, I don't know, energy from the air, and producing water from humidity in the desert, that's special, and that might be more special than being a McKinsey consultant. If you're applying to multiple schools, again, don't use the same narrative, don't use the same stories. You have to be very specific, and you might need some help. Obviously, if you're a first-time applicant, you might need help. By the way, if you're a second-time applicant, even probably more, because that's, we need to see what you did wrong the first time. I call it high-stake applicants, but I think everybody's high-stake applicants. I kind of like to see this as a one-shot and a one-cycle one-shot. Apply to the schools you want to get into, get offers, get scholarships, do it all in parallel, finish with it in one cycle. So, whoever's doing that should also kind of need help. And of course, anyone who just needs help, telling this story. So, in practice, probably most serious applicants would need MBA admission consulting advice. I don't know if there are real statistics on this, but when I speak to candidates, most candidates in most top schools use MBA admission consulting advice and paid MBA admission consultants. Okay, so this isn't something that most candidates are not doing. This is something that most candidates are doing. And if you're not doing it or not considering paying professionals to help you, you're disadvantaged versus, the majority. Okay, kind of a bit more of the same, but again, I kind of think that if you come from a highly overrepresented background, you probably need help. And if you come from a non-traditional and, more interesting or more complex to explain background, you probably also need our help. So that's who should benefit. So how to evaluate the return on investment on MBA admission consulting services? Like I said, it really does cost thousands of dollars. And this is something super difficult. I just can't duplicate you. And, UA pays $10,000 and UB does it all by himself and kind of to see what happened. But the problem is, can you afford to, that mistake? Thousands of dollars is still a very small, relatively, amount of money versus, first of all, the cost of an MBA and the career value of an MBA. So it's probably the best few thousands of dollars you invested because, again, it's a small amount of that money. I think there's no doubt that professionals like us can improve your application. Now, that improvement can be very small. Let's say we can improve your application. I think there's no doubt. We're very good. We'll read your application. We'll find something better. Let's say that improvement was only 5%. It's very hard to get into top schools. Maybe that 5% was the difference between getting in and not getting in. Maybe that 5% was the difference between waitlist and not waitlist. Maybe that 5% was the difference between a scholarship and not a scholarship. So again, I really can't duplicate you. I'm working on the cloning, but I'm still not there. But definitely we raise your chances. And again, what's the opportunity cost? Think, oh, maybe I'll try and do it by myself. And if you don't get in, so what was the cost of missing this year's application cycle? And maybe also ruining chances in the future because now you're going to be a react. So there's a huge opportunity cost. Obviously, we save time, structure, we know what we're doing, we know what to lead you. You don't need to go on Google and start searching how to write and stuff. We're there for you. And again, when we evaluate your chances, we can also save time and try and understand and trying to explain to you what to do, where to apply to, what to write. And sometimes even scholarships. I think last year 56%, we just did our statistics. So 56% of our applicants received a scholarship. We had 16 full scholarships and a lot of partial scholarships. By the way, these are only merit scholarships because I never count financial need-based scholarships, which a lot of our candidates receive as well. So just think about that. You wrote a great application, schools gave you a scholarship. Wow, it was worth paying a few $1,000s for that. Okay, and again, just think about this probability. A lot of people say, you know what, yeah, I would pay you whatever you ask, $100,000 if you can get me into an M7 school. And I say, we don't charge $100,000, we charge less than a tenth of that. And I can't guarantee you anything. You can look at our statistics, I think we're very good. But what I can do is improve your chances. I think that's also important. Okay, and again, if you don't get it right, kind of thing, this is the other side of the ROI. This can kind of, if you do some kind of mistake, it can kind of overshadow. If you get rejected, you won't get any feedback. You won't really know what you did wrong. If you're a re-app, this can also be a bit of an issue because a lot of the schools will look at your application from last year. And if there's some kind of mistake in that last year application, this can impact your application this year. And of course, like we said, if you start your MBA this year and then you start your post-MBA career post-MBA, it will be faster than if you kind of have to delay this by a year or two because you kind of lost the opportunity this year. So there's a lot of money also involved in the return on investment of an MBA and just trying to get in as fast as possible. So I think that's important. Okay, I think you kind of got the main idea here of what happens, when you make mistakes. Okay, what are we seeing? Okay, so I'm just seeing the same things again and again. Okay, so a lot of people kind of contact me, especially in kind of April, May, before the season starts, but they kind of say, oh, I didn't work with you guys last year. But here's my application. Can you kind of show me what went wrong? We do offer a ding analysis service, and then they pay for 3 hours of our work, and we see the same things. We see, okay, good profile, but the positioning is just very generic. Or we can see, then we kind of compare them with our candidates, which, they actually didn't have as high as test scores as possible, but actually received good offers. So we kind of compare and we see the problem was in the positioning and in the story. And career transitions is very important and very hard to explain because many MBA candidates go for an MBA to kind of shift their career somewhere else. And you just have to explain it. You have to explain the motivation, the direction. You have to explain why this is doable, why you're employable post-MBA. This is quite a hard story to explain, and you might need help with it. And like we said, if you come from an overrepresented profile, you have to differentiate somehow because otherwise you won't get in. I recently visited, I won't mention the name of the school, but I visited one of the top European business schools, and it's ranked in the top in the Financial Times MBA rankings. And a few of their statistics is, first of all, 35% of the applications in a given year come from India. And in this specific year, where a lot of international applicants maybe were considering international options and were a bit scared of Trump or other reasons not to apply to the US, they were actually seeing 45% of candidates coming from India. Now, this made it very easy for the school to put some kind of barrier, some kind of threshold for the GMAT. Okay, if your GMAT's under 625, we don't even want to look at your application if you come from an overrepresented profile. But that doesn't mean that if you have a 700 GMAT focused edition score, that you're going to get in. Because if they have another hundreds of candidates very similar to you, studied in the same university, worked in the same workplace, have 20 points less in the GMAT, but have some kind of differentiator, they will probably call them for an interview. So that's very important to understand. And we obviously see like mistakes in the application. We see kind of inconsistency or, some kind of weak articulation of the impact, which is, again, kind of repeating your CV, but not kind of showing what you did, or just no school-specific tailoring, which is very, very important. If I look at, 3 candidates that two of them we worked with. So the first 2 we worked with. First one is super candidate. I really like her. She had 3 years in IB, in investment banking experience. Okay, and a very good brand. Not many hobbies because you don't have much time in investment banking. Quite a low GMAT, but we managed to get her admitted in the last round, by the way. So round 3 at LBS and round 4 at INSEAD. And she even got a nice scholarship at LBS. So GMAT definitely isn't everything. Another interesting profile we worked with this year didn't have a GMAT, and we worked on GMAT waivers for Michigan Ross and Darden, Virginia. ESADE Barcelona have an internal test that you can sometimes use. There's some other schools that have this, IE Madrid, for example. And we kind of went on this route, and this candidate got in, so I was really proud of him. And on the other hand, I saw this amazing, amazing candidate, like probably one of the best I've seen for a few years. He was in the Air Force, an F-16 pilot. So I hope you agree, that's impressive. And then he did a shift to Goldman Sachs. So, that was super impressive. Plus he had an old GMAT of 770. So that's around 725, 35 in GMAT Focus Edition, way above school averages. And no interview at Harvard. And then we looked at the application. I think the application was good, but again, it was just mentioning the achievements without mentioning, impact on the surroundings, and, wasn't very clear on career goals, etc. By the way, we worked with this applicant in the following year, and he got into Stanford, so all good. Don't worry about him. Okay, I mean, this is just my last slide. Again, we're very good, and if you want to check us out on ARINGO.com, please do. We obviously do, whatever I was talking about in the last 7 slides. We do a personalized strategy, and we don't use any templates. We don't use AI. We talk about you, check out your background, and do a specific strategy. We identify the narrative before writing anything. Then we start doing school-specific positioning. We have experts from all schools, and only then we start writing, and helping you with your application itself, with the CV, the essays. If we can influence the recommenders and tell them kind of, don't forget, I was first in the office, etc. Obviously, interview prep, everything. We have a few lines of review, so that always prevents kind of these mistakes that sometimes are made, repeating some kind of story or using or lack of narrative, or just missing some kind of additional optional essay that you can write something. And that's how we work. We have our details here. Visit us on aringo.com. And I think that is it for me. Don't forget to check us out on aringo.com. You can always send me your profile for profile review. You have my email here, and it's free profile review. Use that opportunity. And if you like this video, please thumbs up, check out our other videos, and see you in the future. Good luck. Don't use AI. Good luck.